by the mainstream community. We'll have conversations with maintenance and reliability practitioners just like you. Whether you take iron ore out of the ground, keep power plants running, fix aeroplanes, trains, conveyor belts or turbines, few things excite you more than making equipment and machines do more than they were ever designed to do. Faster, safer, longer and more efficiently. Let's just say you keep economies moving. I'm Andrew Daddo. Welcome to the Reliability Hero podcast. This is Reliability Hero, and I'm joined today by Peter Durrant. He's an adjunct principal, education and change management with Covaris, a maintenance practitioner thriving in the Australian industry. He's had an exceptional career that started in the Navy and now to Covaris, and with the desire and want to help people. How's it been for you? Peter, first of all, welcome. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, I think it'll be fun. You've done a lot. Can we just say what you're doing now, like what your specific role is now, and then I want to work backwards to the beginning and then work back up to where we are.
I'm in that lovely position where after 50-odd years in working, I no longer do things I don't enjoy. So sitting with you and doing this is part of what I enjoy. And I'm off and running. So I do a lot of teaching of maintenance planning and scheduling. I go to a lot of sites and talk about maintenance improvement programs, asset management. So it's just an absolute delight being connected to people with whom you connect, and they love working hard, and we like improving the way they do business.
Yeah, I quite like your first note on LinkedIn where you say every day is a chance to discover something new, an idea, a person, a love that then can be better understood and to connect people and ideas for when the time is right, which I think is a really interesting notion. How important is timing when it comes to ideas?
It's critical. You go to all sorts of different conversations and everybody's in a different place at a different time, and you've got to wait for those pieces of gold to drop out. So you can be talking to people for a week and a half and not get something, then suddenly something will come out. And so the trick is to listen a lot and really wait for the passion that comes out. He comes to work and still hasn't had that first cup of coffee, not happy. Then by the afternoon, bang, you have a conversation and the magic happens.
Okay, so when you talk about the magic happening, what are you actually talking about? Do you mean an idea of how to do something better or differently, or?
Yeah. So as an intro, I've just been to a company where there's a whole lot of sites in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Trimit, all over the place, and I've gone to speak to nearly all of the maintenance planners and some of the engineers and that sort of thing, just to find out first of all what they do well. Too often we go in and ask people what's going wrong and focus on what's going wrong. But when you start focusing on the things that are going well, you start to see there's possibly one or two opportunities for improvement. And that's when you start to move into a place where you can take the gold, build on that, and then finalise a few steps. And you can't do a million things overnight. You've just got to pick up on the things that really matter, which will give you a return on your investment. Okay,
so you started hands-on, and obviously you're consulting now, but you started with the Navy. As an electrical engineer, went into subs. So just tell us what it just sounds. I mean, look, I should read it, but maybe if you leave something out, then I'll try and remind you. But just how did that work, and how did it all begin for you?
Well, I started life as an apprentice in the Navy, and so electrical fitter by trade, and then I also did electronics. So I dual trade. And went to sea and finished my apprenticeship, and then there was this opportunity to join submarines, and I thought, what's that all about? Well, it's 8 months in the UK training. Oh, okay, I'm going to join submarines.
Yeah. right.
So there I was in the UK for 8 months doing my training. Then I come back, and then I had to go to sea, and I thought, how did that happen?
So sea in a submarine.
Yeah. Only for about 17 years, though.
Yeah. And so what's that submarine experience like?
It's fabulous. It's a young man's game, of course. Well past it now. Mind you, if I could go to sea in one of the new nukes, I'd be there pretty quick. But it's you've really quite professional. There's only a few people that do certain things, and so you have to have your act together. And for me, that was the making of me. I was a bit of a scallywag, and I got myself in a bit of trouble here and there. But once I got to the submarine arm, and you realise that, wait a minute, they're depending on you.
Yeah.
You actually have to get your guano in one little lump.
Right. I've never heard it expressed that way. What sort of a scallywag were you?
I was just enjoying life. I mean, for me to join the Navy, mother sort of, I was in failed year 10 and started year 11 badly. And she sidled up to me with a cutting out of the paper and said, "Pete, would you like to go and do an apprenticeship in the Navy?"
Yeah.
And, of course, next minute I'm there. I've signed up for 12 years. And I went, what happened?
Right.
Dear old mum did me like a dinner.
Right.
It was...
I don't want to jump ahead to consulting yet and dealing with young people and how you do that, but I definitely want to get there. Sorry, one last thing on the not one last thing on the submarines. Do you spend most of your time underwater when at sea in a sub?
Yes, yeah. You get out there, you dive, you live listening to the electromagnetic environment and obviously the acoustic environment, but it's all about not being discovered. So you're out there doing your thing, and that's what you do.
And so, for how long would you be? Sorry if this is boring for you, but how long would you be underwater for?
Well, the longest I've done is away for 6 weeks. Of that, you would have been at least 4 or 5 weeks dived.
Right.
And transit time in and out.
Yep. And so the feeling in the ship then, in the submarine, obviously it's tight and enclosed, but is there a great sense of camaraderie and friendship?
Yeah, and that's indeed part of it. There's less, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just straightforward. You just do your job. People understand what you have to do. And once you're at sea, you've got half the crew asleep at any one time. You're doing 6 hours on, 6 hours off around the clock. And you're operating, you're doing the tasks that are asked of you. And people just get on very well.
Okay. Do you look back at it as one of your favourite working experiences?
Absolutely. It was as I said, it was the making of me, and my continuation in my work reflects back on that. You have to get on with people. There's no sense in carrying on like a pork chop. You really have to do the job that's asked of you and respect everybody else around you.
All right. So that was actually crucial in you understanding how to behave in a professional sense as you move forward.
Oh, very much so.
All right. So how do you then pass that lesson on to the younger people when you work with them? Is there a knack to that, or is there?
Very much. It's certainly in our world of maintenance and asset management. It's a process. You understand the process and you follow the process. Then, as you see things that may be able to improve it, that continuous improvement process at the end of that feedback loop is where you really kick the goal. So you follow it as it's designed, and you give that a go, and you think, hey, wait a minute, if we did step 7 before step 13, and we did that then before that, we'd probably be a lot more efficient. And suddenly somebody goes, hey, what a great idea, let's give it a go. And bang, you get into it.
And so do you think now, and as you say, 50 years in the industry, that we're as good at learning new ways to do things as you would have been in the Navy?
Look, I think we're better. I think there's a whole lot of things that have improved. Technology's doing a lot of things for us. I'm still, connected to a lot of young tradies, ladies and gentlemen, who are just stunningly capable, and I get a buzz out of hearing from them, and then saying, "Well, let's guide that in a different way. Let's do this, in some other way." And when they're listening, A, I'm learning a whole lot from them, and B, I can transmit a little bit of my knowledge to them, and suddenly you've got a lot of fun happening as well.
Okay, and how relevant is your knowledge to them now? If you know what I mean, like there's that, I don't know. I talk to people and young people, and they're like, cares.
Yeah.
So go on, Grandpa.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Yeah, you've got to pick your stories. And of course, when you jump something out, says, oh well, when I was at 200 feet on this submarine and this happened and we had this flood, yeah, I really got my focus really quickly when that happened. This water in the people tank's not a lot of fun. And so when you sort of turn it around like that, suddenly you got their attention. And then you come back to the physics of it, the depth, the pressure, the whole that the water's coming in, and your buoyancies. And once you start to talk about that, suddenly the technical side comes out in them. They're thinking, gee, that's really interesting.
Yep.
And then how do you get out of that? Well, you blow main ballast and suddenly you're on the surface and your dived problem is now a surface problem and you're a lot better off. And once you bring all of that together, you've got to make conversations interesting. That's your business. You do a lot of that stuff up on the stage. And so when you're sitting in a classroom with 30 planners, you've got some planners who are just starting, or some are really quite experienced. And somehow you've got to bring that together and with a few war stories. And I've been privileged enough to work across from food manufacturing, oil and gas, military, all sorts of different places. And from that, the war stories come out. And if you get those across and get their interest, you can take them with you.
Okay. Do you have a best, like your best back pocket story where everything's going to hell in a handbasket and you go, well, hang on a second. Do you have like one and maybe that's the one you just told about being 200 metres down and in a people tank?
Yeah, well, one of the things is you're dealing with people, and everybody knows that some people don't necessarily want to follow process. So we say, the old, or you tell them once and you have a conversation, you explain that. Maybe you tell them a second time and explain why you've told them a second time. By the time you get to the third time, you might have to give them a significant emotional experience. And that always gets people thinking, because they, what do you mean by that? Well, you use imagination. All those with a job take one step forward.
Right. Gotcha. You transitioned into project manager with the Australian Defence Industries in 1992. How was that from being a worker bee to a management bee?
That was exciting. I was halfway through an MBA at that stage, and I'd had this military world. I was the engineer on Collins, the first of the new submarines in South Australia in build. And suddenly there's this job that comes up to go to Northwest Cape when the Americans pulled out of the communication station up there. And so my background in submarine communications is a communications site for submarines. And so I got the gig. And then suddenly I had to go and recruit 60 people, both operators and maintainers, to work at the site. And I was then living on adrenaline and using my learnings out of my MBA in real stuff. And so all of that was exciting. And so from that transition was, made a lot of mistakes, but a lot of good learnings out of that. And from the process then ended up getting into other areas of business.
Okay. It's something I've asked a few of the people that we've chatted to in the Reliability Hero podcast. Have you learnt more from your successes or your failures?
Oh, the failures, absolutely. Pardon me. One of the things, I've been made redundant 3 times. Sometimes it could have been avoided. Me and my mouth got myself into a few problems. And
still that scallywag, eh?
Yeah, it's sort of stuck with me.
Can't keep a good scallywag down.
No, but you go and have a look in the mirror and you think, Pete, could you have done that better? Ooh, yeah, I reckon I could have. Mm-hmm. and then you say, well, okay. But each of those has taken me to a better place because you've got that experience, and the trick is you've got to believe in yourself. That can have the reverse effect. It can take people to a horrible place, that they've been kicked to the touch and they're not doing so well. But if you focus on the good points and you believe in yourself, it takes you to a better place. It always does.
Okay, you said when you started that job that you were really flying by the seat of your pants. Were you ready for the job? And is that one of the things about doing better and furthering yourself professionally is to take on things that you're possibly not ready for?
I think for me, because I was halfway through the MBA, I was sort of on the first ladder of the management world, and I'd obviously been commissioned and a naval officer at sea and running a pretty big department. But when you start to deal with the commercial aspects as well as the military aspects from the past, and you go through that. An example, we had to put in a system. Defence demands that you have systems that are ISO 9001 accredited, and you just read the book, look the standard, put the bits and pieces in place, and move as quickly as you can. Taking people with you, and so once you do that with the right sort of attitude, you learn. You're on that vertical learning curve, and you're really taking off.
Okay. Is the reliability and maintenance, were there thought leaders for you as you went through? Did you have any sort of gurus that you really looked up to or who inspired you?
Yes. As I was going through the obviously engineering world, and I became a sort of senior non-commissioned officer at sea, I was fairly well in control of my equipment and maintaining my equipment. But then you have the engineering process where you might take your submarine into a dockyard and you go through a major turnaround activity. And then you're working with the dockyard personnel who are seriously skilled in certain areas. They don't have your operational aspects. Then you can see that these very, very skilled people are doing certain things very, very well. They don't understand the bigger picture. But suddenly you're about to bring the bigger picture together. Why is it important that you do that? Well, because of this. Then you shift over here, you do communications one day, you're in a high power battery the next day you're a big conversion machinery. And you're just assisting people put it into context, how important their work is to bring this submarine back together, go to sea and do its set to work and operate again. And that comes with you when you get into industry. I've run into a lot of ex-military people in industry who are pretty well served because the discipline is second nature. You don't think about it. I mean, when you have an evolution in a submarine and you're about to go deep in emergency and do all sorts of things, people just turn on and it just happens. Everybody knows which valve to turn at what time, and you practice. And that's the same sort of thing. Why do we in industry do evacuation procedures? Why do we do certain things? It's because you need to get people automatically reacting to be safe.
Well, do you think that being in the military is one of the great ways to be involved in asset management and really understand how things work?
It is from the aspect of the... You buy an aircraft, you buy a ship, you buy a submarine, you've got a very clear asset life. So, for instance, very broadly speaking, our Collins-class submarine was supposed to operate for 10 years, 2-year major refit, do that 3 times, 37 years, bang, 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 and off you go. That's your big picture. And then you bring it down to, well, today I've got to go and clean the bilges. And when you understand that this is where it is in its life cycle. And if you think about our F-111 fighters, bombers we had, they were used well past their use-by date. But their configuration understanding of how the bits and pieces were put together, it's like grandfather's axe. It's had 4 handles and 3 heads over all these years. It's exactly the same aircraft. But new avionics, new this, that and the other. And same with our submarines. I had one submarine where I was a brand new electronic fit when we first got to take on the Mark 48 torpedoes from the Yanks and do all of that. And so, bang, you're in a new world, but the configuration must be exactly documented. You must have the test and trials regimes well constructed. You've then got to do your improvement programs, like your capital program in your asset management. you've got to have your capital improvements coming from a very strong database of information where there's a return on your investment. If you're going to put some money into this, what's the return? Well, in the Navy, it's bigger, better, faster. In the world of the business, you've got to get a return on your investment, internal hurdle rate of 25%, that you're going to get more return on those capital dollars.
Okay,
So,
and is it important for the people actually doing the maintenance to understand where things are in the process? Like, is that one of the things that you recommend that businesses do, is keep everyone actually in the loop so they have a vested interest?
Oh, very much so. You've got to understand your life cycle. If you think about the resource sector, you've got some areas which are 40 odd years old in some areas, and then you've got a new piece of kit. You've got to understand the life cycle of every single part that you're playing with and put that into perspective. So if I'm a planner, I've got to know where I am in the life cycle of the area with which I'm working and planning, so I can keep it in focus. And we don't spend a lot of time with our tradies or certainly our supervisors, maybe even our superintendents, to get them to a speed where they understand the bigger picture. Out of the world of the military is probably a good example, where you live and breathe the life cycle of your submarine. You know when it was put down, you know when it was commissioned, you know when it's in its next cycle. And so you talk to people, oh yeah, I was on the boat for its third commission, and
Okay.
And the issues you have, because you live and breathe it, and you know that there's suddenly going to be buying new nuclear submarines. So I would have seen the Oberons through the Collins all the way through that in a process. That's the same as a gold mine. You want to know where is the gold price at this stage and what you're going to do about it.
Okay. How was the transition into mining for you? You said you also worked in the food industry. So do the same rules apply effectively regardless of the industry?
Yes, it does. It doesn't matter where you are. You've got an asset. It's there to do a thing. If I was going to make Tim Tams, I have to have a set of gear that makes Tim Tams, but I can only sell so many into the marketplace, so my marketing has got to drive me to where I'm going.
Okay.
And I've still got to have the right asset, but you've got to get a return on that money.
Okay. Just back to the submarines for a second. Australia's gone through a really interesting period over the last 5 years with submarines. Did you have any thoughts while that was all going through with the French and then the rebuilding process of how that was handled? And
I mean, the government didn't have a choice because of the situation. Somebody turned around and said, "Let's give Australia the opportunity to have a nuclear submarine." So the last time they did that was 50 years ago with the Brits. So suddenly they say, you can have the nuclear technology. So we're halfway through building another conventional submarine. It just happened to be a French one. It could have been German, it could have been Japanese, it could have been whatever. They made a decision. Good call. Build submarine. Go to sea, do stuff. But then shift target. You can now have a nuclear boat which can go a lot deeper, a lot faster. Do a lot more in our big area of operation. We would have wanted this 20 years ago, before Collins.
okay.
So great idea, and I want to go to sea.
Yeah,
Too
right.
old.
Yeah, right. It was certainly interesting, and it was certainly a big fuss. So I'm sort of curious to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah,
now.
well, that was a pivot that just happened, and
Okay.
and we should just accept that and go for it.
All right. You've been with Eventful for over a decade, doing work with them and talking about maintenance and planning. What is your feeling with where the industry's at the moment?
It's going through a massive change, as I see it, with the way in which people want to work. Your standard fly-in, fly-out process, not a lot of change. But if you think about what's happening at headquarters, people working from home, their whole view on spending time with family and looking after the maternal and the paternal side of things, that's just really exciting for me. And when you see a young dad who's taken his paternal leave and looking after the baby, and mum's gone to work, you're thinking that is where we should be. That's just fabulous stuff. And so I'm all for the pivot.
Yep.
Mr. COVID sort of did that to us, but that's what you need. You need a trigger. You need that wake-up call. And then there's a lot of people who are not working too well through that, and I respect that deeply. But there's a lot of people that took it by the bull by the horns and are now flying. And
okay, so how difficult is it to make that sort of a change when things have always been done a certain way and they, I'm guessing change slowly in processes? How difficult is it to sell that message?
I think the message is easy to sell. It's the leadership that has got to embrace it and allow it. What we don't do very well in industry is believe in our people. We have supervisors who are spending too much time with the troops. We have superintendents spending too much time in the work of the supervisor. They have maintenance managers spending too much time in the face of the superintendent. We've got to pull them all up out of the mire and get them looking out over their own horizon of decision making, and just let the troops have their head. Now, they will fix stuff. 90-odd% of your problems will be fixed by the team if they're just left alone.
Okay, so I mean, you're effectively saying that the whole hovering parenting style is sort of managed to find its way into business, and there's just too much,
right.
Careful. Look, like there's just too much looking at and watching what's going on.
Yeah, the risk of decision has passed.
Yes. What keeps you awake at night? If you are going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and start thinking about things, where do you find your mind wandering?
The excitement of the future. Whilst I'm coming to the end of my my world, as you say, working with Eventful, and I run a couple of planner schools, I can now hop in the four-wheel drive and sort of get to as far as Cairns, and then fly back to Melbourne, teach a couple of courses, then fly back and continue around in the four-wheel drive. There's just so much available to us in the future. We can just do so much if you just let yourself go and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was talking to Michelle Ash, and we're talking about that with regards to change, young people are really excited about the change. Or this is the question I put to her, and then you've got the middle management and sort of older guys, so 40 plus, who are quite nervous about the change because they don't necessarily understand their role in it and how they might be nervous that there may not be a role for them. Just listening to you talk, it's all upside. The older you're going.
The world, the senior management, once you've made it to a certain level, you actually get it. You know what's going on. You want to drive. The troops who want to just do the work, if they get it, they know what's going on. And there's this blancmange in the middle. And your would-be's if there could-be's, and you're climbing the corporate ladder and you don't care who you step on. And all of that has to be tidied up. And we don't do succession planning very well in industry. We just suddenly, somebody's broken their leg and they're now on light duties, so that you get them to become a planner. And you say, well, what do you want me to do? So, some of that planning stuff. Yeah, no setup or don't care for them. You just do some of that planning stuff.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, there is no qualification in the world or any other big place for a maintenance planner. You can't go and get a certificate for in maintenance planning. So every business does planning in a certain way. The process hasn't changed. We identify work, we plan it, we schedule it, we then execute the work, we capture what we did with this ubiquitous feedback loop. It's a process. It's simple. And if you're going to use Maximo or Mainplan or SAP or whatever system, the buttonology, as I call it, with the keyboard, just teach them how to do that and why you do it, and then let them innovate and let them fly with doing the right work at the right time. It's not hard.
Should there be a broader training platform for maintenance work so they can actually, you can, before you go into the industry, actually understand how things work? Or is it, I think as Chris Carroll always reminds me that, these are things that you cannot learn in a textbook. You've got to actually learn on the job.
Look, it's great. I use the term we don't do succession planning very well. We have the gun fitter who you are just so good, son. I'm going to make you a supervisor. Then we hang him out to dry, and then we shoot him because he wasn't a good supervisor. Yeah, we play these games. So a young fitter comes in, just finished his time. What do I want him to do? I want him to learn how to raise a work request and close out a work order. That's all he needs to know. And obviously his skill of hand. I'm not telling him how to do his job. I'm just telling him this is the process. So he then goes along and becomes very good at raising good quality work requests, and he closes out work orders very in detail. And then we promote him to leading hand. Well, we want him to now do some scoping. We want him to do some other work. Then we promote him to supervisor. So the work management process then gets inculcated into them step by step through their processes. Finally, you get to superintendent or maintenance manager. You actually know what you're talking about because you've been trained. But what we do is we zip them in and we just let them flail, and that's not fair.
But there's lots of people who they get into work and they want to actually fly. They're like, oh, okay, I'll do this for a month and go, hang on a second. Oh, I reckon I can do. Why am I doing? And so is it a matter of harnessing that enthusiasm until they know exactly what's...
Well, first of all, you've got to create the enthusiasm, because that one that wants to fly is a rarity, because there's an awful lot of people who've been given such a hard time, because the only time you see the boss is when it comes to deliver pineapples, and then disappears. But what we want to do is we want to come down there and talk to them on a regular basis and tell them how good they're doing their work, but then highlight an opportunity because you've done some data analysis and say, guys, you've done this so well, but there's one thing we can improve on. Who's got some ideas for this? Then suddenly they go, oh, that's easy, just do that. Oh, well done. And bang, you got them involved, you got them growing.
Okay.
Then suddenly you got everybody coming up and wanting to fly, and you just create the environment for them to do it.
Okay. Is there something that you've seen that you have thought to yourself, gee, I wish I created that? I wish I was part of that process?
I mean, working with Covaris is one of those things. Dr. Bob, who you've spoken to, has that ability to just have a look at a problem, do the analysis, and see that the root cause of this is this, and where did that come from?
Right.
So I've got this lovely situation where I'm at the front doing all the people stuff and really enjoying chatting. I've got a team behind me who do some serious analytics, and then out it comes to me. And I look flash because they've done all the hard work. But it's down to hard work. It's down to good quality data. It's down to seriously understanding your equipment and your baseline of how it works and the design. And from that, So if I could have had that sort of analytical head, that's fine. But then I probably wouldn't be in the same sort of situation with the people stuff I do.
Okay, but isn't that the sign of a really good process? That so as you say, you head out there and you're the front man and you look flash, but for everyone who looks flash or good at doing something, there is a bucket load of great work that gets done behind them to make them, just you happen to be that guy.
I never had an original thought in my life, the old story. And so you just listen to everybody. You get lots of listening, and then suddenly something comes up and you think, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me more about that. And then you respect them and you say, well, Jonesy told me that this is the way to do business, and I believe in Jonesy. Let's get a bit more out of his head.
How important is it to give the credit for a good idea that you've heard? Because this is not the first. This is the second time you've talked about actually listening, talking, listening.
It's critical, and the amount of untapped resource in industry at the moment is huge. You've got if you got your planning and your scheduling well done, you actually get twice as much work done by having all the parts and everything ready than you do if you don't do that properly. So without going to get any more people, you become more productive. You invent about 3 or 4 fitters, half a dozen electricians, just because they're not running around redoing stuff that was wasted time. So people say to me, "Oh, we don't have enough resource. We need more fitters. We need more electricians." I said, "Well, how productive are your electricians and fitters now?" So, "Oh, we don't know. We waste a bit of time." So, let's fix that first.
Yeah.
Let's get them really productive. Then, when we do our planning correctly, you can define that I need 3 fitters, 2 electricians, and a boilermaker because here's the work that's planned. And I don't have time to, I don't have those resources.
Okay, and no wasted time. Just to finish, Pete, have you got a best moment or initiative that you've been involved with? Something where you really go, that was... I know there's a lot of good guys behind me, but I bloody...
Well, I was involved in the nickel industry where we new general manager comes in and he just spent time to map everything with the geos in the field out to the mining guys and everybody. What do you do? Brought us all into a room, worked out that, at the interfaces, what do you need out of metallurgy, all these sorts of things. And over 3 years, he'd taken a site from 27,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate trucked down the road to about 44,000 tonnes with just process control. So we all looked at our data, we looked at everything that was happening, no matter where you were, and you came to an interface, and you find that the interface was not the best way of doing business. So mining started, blending ore in the front of the mill and goes on. And that was just by bringing process under control. Process control, that is the way you get huge productivity increases, save an awful lot of money, and your profits skyrocket.
So one last thing. I know you're excited about the future. With technology changing as quickly as it is, does that give you any cause for alarm as well?
Well, it's how do you handle the volumes of data that are coming through and picking the gold out of the thing. That's the trick. But it'll be those people who can work with the huge amounts of data that are coming at us and make some sense of it that will make the difference. It's the volumes of data coming at us and that needs to be thought through very, very carefully.
Okay. All right, Peter, thanks very much for your time on Reliability Hero.
Thank you so much. Fabulous.
Good on you, Pete.